Welcome to Roasting the World, where we offer an adversarial perspective on today's cultural issues. We do it for the intelligent culture. I'm your host, Keenan Robinson, and we have a very special guest today,
Nia Jackson McClure.
Nia Jackson McClure. So first, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you've been on the show before, but refresh their memories.
Yeah, so for those of you who have seen the Uncrowned episode, I am Nia Jackson McClure. I am a business financial educator. I operate in the space of being a capital consultant, which is a fancy way of saying I help entrepreneurs access money. And we get to talk about some fun things in terms of community and empowerment and also the culture.
All right, so today, we can talk a little bit about, ways to get y'all some money from the business aspect of it. But I kind of brought her on here to do things a little bit less professional when it comes to the subject matter today. We're going to talk about expectations. So recently, there's been Adam 22 from Adam 22 Jumper or something that was in the news for letting his wife do, his newly wife, less than a year, about a year, do a porno with a black guy, and they supposedly got $10 million or something like that. And then we had Keke Palmer, who was dancing with Usher, had her some scantily clothes on, and her baby daddy, boyfriend, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if he was a husband or what. But he took to social media and had something to say about it. And then speaking with Nia, the word expectations kind of came up because when he met her, he knew she was in entertainment. When Adam Jumper met his wife, she was in entertainment. They do things together that, maybe a husband, a wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend do. But when they go out in the world and do those same things, you got to expect them to do that, or do you have different expectations?
So I'm. This is like super appropriate. They were talking about expectations, so I'm going to give you a crown off answer response, and I'm going to give you a crown on answer response. So the crown on answer is, simply put, we all have expectations. Whether or not those expectations are communicated in a relationship ahead of time, where everybody is on an equal playing field,
right.
Or whether or not those expectations change. Those are things that, are kind of natural things that need to happen and be communicated, in relationship. Relationships are not static. Each person in the relationship is going to go through phases, and something that I think, particularly in the case of, Keke Palmer and, her baby father, boyfriend, whatever that case is, I think people have to understand and recognize that growing up in the industry that's not you being a brand new actor, actress. That's not, you have a role today and you're nobody tomorrow. Keke Palmer has had a career that has been developed over 20 plus years.
That's true.
She was a child in this.
That's right.
She literally was groomed in the industry. So I think when you consider, expectations overall, yes, we all have them, but then it comes down to what was communicated between the two of them.
And you never know what goes on between a man and a woman.
Right.
And what I thought was like, okay, when she gets to take her acting hat off and she's at home.
When she gets to put this down, let's
right.
say this is her acting hat.
Right.
She puts that down.
Right.
Yeah.
And she is here being vulnerable, being the woman that, to this man that he needs, apparently, because, they have a child together and all that stuff. I think that he had to be aware that when she leaves out the door and goes to work, she's going to do, just like Megan Good. Megan Good was married to a pastor, right? But when she had to go do her roles and different things of that nature, she had to interact with men a certain way because that is her job.
Right.
Do you feel like if you're in one of those type of roles and your man, or flip it, because Denzel Washington got a wife, and he kissing a lot of co-stars and freaking them and all that kind of stuff, do they have any say-so if you're the breadwinner and because I don't know who Keke Palmer's baby daddy is. Like, I don't know if he's, you know what I mean? So she's probably the breadwinner. But either way, with Denzel or whomever, there has to be a conversation because those expectations.
Right.
And do they have any say so in changing the other person's behavior? Because personally, I wouldn't want my boo up there first with a whole booty out dancing with Usher. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like, hold up, man. Like, you come home and you got on, moo-moo.
You got on a moo-moo at the house.
You know what I'm saying? But you going out there, you got on.
Yeah.
And shout out to the grandparents that always wore them nightgowns and still had 18 kids. You know what I'm saying? So something was just going on.
She knew what to do underneath the nightgown.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't want my boo to go out and do that because, one, she or he, whoever, is a reflection of their other person. And if you say that you care about me, and sometimes the things that happen out there hurt us. Mm-hmm. So, and I understand they may not have talked about it beforehand, but if a person is not really 100% secure in their relationship, right, and they're intimidated by maybe a Usher because he's a more powerful man, he maybe got more money than you, he got more swag than you, all the women are fawning over him, including your woman, and how can you compete with that? Because let that guy go out there, where is my baby, and all that stuff, ain't nobody gonna come flock to him. So he can't compete with that, so that might be a little bit of insecurity, based on what he expected from his woman.
I think one of the most attractive traits, man, woman, or otherwise, that a person can have is security. Being secure
like
in
keep
self.
that file on them?
Like,
like an alarm system?
Self-security.
Okay.
Like, ultimately, this is the thing. It's always going to be somebody with more money than you. It's always going to be somebody else that's attractive.
Right.
It's always going to be somebody else that's more built. It's always going to be somebody else. People, what's the saying? Comparison is the root of all unhappiness. I don't believe that's true. I believe putting judgment behind said comparison.
On yourself.
Right.
Okay.
Or even with other people.
Okay.
Ultimately, you and I can say we are two different skin tones, right?
Right.
Until and unless I'm saying that one of those is better than the other, it's just that. It's just me acknowledging the difference.
Okay,
right?
but that's how racism started because people do think their skin color is better than
Right,
the other.
and that's the problem.
Yeah.
That is the problem. Again, comparison leads to all happy. Right. So there's a point.
And by the way,
yeah,
Chocolate Brothers is in. Just so you know.
Y'all ain't never been out of style. What? Ain't that what they said?
Okay, but go ahead.
So anyway, love to all the brothers. But seriously though, I think that when you get to a point where you say, okay, well, this is what I don't want, the rest of the world to see or whatever. There's a point in your relationship where you have to say, it's me and this person.
Right.
There's always going to be something to come up that don't look good. Let's just be real.
Right.
I don't know a single person, I have yet to meet a single person on this earth that is above the age of 5 that has not been in a situation where it's like, if you catch me on this moment at this time, not even necessarily because something's going on, but just because dang, if I was on the outside looking in on this situation, the optics of this don't look good. Right? Whether that's I turned around and somebody and it looked from this angle what is it? The drawings that they do in psychology class.
Yeah.
Well, what is it to you? Well, what is it to you? You get two different answers.
Right.
Relationships are no different. Right. So it's for me, it's what kind of conversations were they having before that took place?
Right.
Or did you just put this woman on a pedestal because you fell in love, which we often do? Right. And you forgot that she was a real person. Or a career, an actress, and had a career that she worked very hard for before you. And I think sometimes too, what happens is it becomes very easy, and a lot of times we have a hard time identifying this in the relationship sometimes. But it becomes very easy to be the person who you put so much emphasis on the other person that you don't even think about. Well, did I develop standards and that I didn't communicate to this person? Did I become so in love with this person, so engrossed with this person that I forgot? I lost me yourself. And I forgot that they were a human too.
And then at the same time, the communication piece should not be over social media. It shouldn't be on you know, all over where everybody's
How is
talking
that keeping
about
your
it.
relationship sacred? So that
Not.
becomes my question is how are you, and there's so much, I think a lot of what people are debating with this whole situation is loyalty,
Okay.
right? The idea and the concept of loyalty in a relationship. And I think that one of the most disloyal things that you can do is invite everybody into your relationship.
Right.
And I'm sorry, but we have a culture now that says, well, if you put it on social media, like basically, let's just put the relationship on social media, right? Like it's not official if it's not on social media, right? Because you're supposed to want to let the world know. Okay, so then if you want to let the world know, you want to let the world know about all your drama,
Right.
all of your relationship issues, all of your, whatever these challenges are. And I don't think that's the place when you talk about healing and healthy relationships between people and healthy spaces of vulnerability.
Right.
She did, I think, not too long before that, she was expressing how supported she felt, by him.
Right. I did see that where she was having some type of interview, and she said that she's been in the entertainment world for a long time, and she just has her family and loved ones that really understand her and really know her until she met this guy, and now things changed. So she found like her guy. With that being said, that does kind of speak to why he may have felt like that.
Way.
Because he was like, hey, I thought I was your guy. It looked like Usher your guy. You know what I'm saying? I know you might be playing a role. You know what I'm saying? But maybe you should say, hey, I don't got no clothes and I'm about to go dance with Usher. You know what I mean? And for publicity or something like that, because everything is publicity. I would say all news, even bad news, is good news to people that's trying to get their name out and people trying to really get to the forefront of, the tabloids or social media or people talking about them on their podcasts and different things like that. And it may not even be nothing. Because I remember hearing about Usher and Chris Brown here recently getting into something that, so they're really trying to prop this stuff up to get attention. And it might, and really it may be way less than, because when I saw the video with Kiki, I saw, like, let's just say she had on some jeans. Will we still have the same?
We would not. And I think
mean?
Ultimately that's a bigger piece of it too, is that, we can talk about how progressive we've been since Epstein or, and all of this, but like, let's be real. If we're having a conversation, we are still right now having a conversation about somebody else's social media relationship.
Right.
Point blank period. So it's like, on the one hand, it's like, the crown is awesome and give you the real answer. It's like, get out that relationship and worry about your own. That's
I've had to tell somebody that before. They was going in about something that they wanted done, and I said, you need to make sure this is straight before you worried about this outside situation.
And that's my thing. I think sometimes what tends to happen, and even in that situation, so he chose to put what he put on social media about not feeling represented, in that way for what have you. So then it went from being you feeling a way between you and your person to now you've invited the world to feel a way about whatever the situation was. So in addition to you having your own mind to contend with, you now have invited in the insecurities and projections of everybody else.
And most of what I heard was women supporting Kiki, men telling him he might need to shut up, and then off of her onto him, he was getting drugged because people felt like, one, why are you doing this on social media? Two, you trapped her with a baby. That's what I'm hearing. That, and not me saying that. They said you trapped her with a baby because who is you?
Because who is you? Yeah, because nobody. Because I admittedly I did that.
Right. So it's kind of like that. Like, and I don't consider Kiki a top tier actress, I guess. I'm not taking anything from her, but she's not in certain stuff. But she's doing her thing, and I appreciate that, right? But this guy, I don't even know his name right now. He just Kiki Palm Baby Daddy, you know what I mean? So was he searching for fame, some notoriety? I heard that something with P. Diddy, something about this and that. And, once you start getting in them circles and going to them little parties and stuff that they be having, stuff get messed up, man.
Stuff happen.
So, for me, when we're bringing it back to expectations, on a personal level, if I was not dating an actress and my girl went to Vegas and that's how she was moving, I wouldn't appreciate that.
Me personally, I can say that, just from a woman's perspective, that's not like, no, that would not be me in Vegas. Like,
but a lot of women say, well, that's Usher. He can get it.
So in this, you and I have talked about this, just like as far as, celebrity exposure and,
right.
Just.
Act like you've been there before.
For me, it's just, if I give you, whether you're a celebrity or not, if I give you some bad Indian food, you're going to be on the toilet just like I am. I'm not that phased. It's not that. And, regarding, money, I have the privilege of being able to work with a wide range of clients. So I've seen it all. So that's not something personally I would be moved by. However, that being said, when it comes down to the relationship piece, for me, it's just because you always are going to have that temptation of comparison. It can't be about like all of that other outside stuff cannot be a factor. It just cannot. The money, the who's saying what, it can't be a factor in your relationship. Right. It's a reason that when you get married, that ring, it's a ring for a reason. It's unbroken, right? So you letting everybody in, that defeats the purpose of like.
But do you not think that they let somebody in by acting that way? Because now you cast doubt on the circle that's supposed to be strong, because now he's like, well, I don't know what's going on. She might love Usher now.
If the expectation was set, what we like to do sometimes is be like, oh, you know what? So I'm gonna poke fun at us women a little bit. Well, what do you want to eat? I don't know. Whatever. Whatever. I'm just hungry. Okay, go get some food. You come back with, no, I didn't want this. Like, it's like, bro, you didn't even communicate what you actually wanted. You just said you were hungry. I got you food. What is the problem? Right?
Okay, but that's one way. But look at it like this. If it was reversed and it was Megan Thee Stallion or Cardi B up there rapping and singing, right? Or Nicki Minaj or somebody. And then he up there.
He done threw the rompums on stage.
And now he freaking her or she freaking him and giving him lap dances and rubbing the boot on him and all that. Is Kiki gonna be mad? Or is she gonna be like, it's just entertainment?
So can I tell you like all the way real? If my man gets a lap dance by Nicki Minaj or Beyonce on stage,
you gonna be lit.
I'm gonna be lit. One, I'm gonna be lit.
I'm gonna be lit.
Two, I'm gonna be like, I need you to make sure this makes money.
Yeah.
That's what I'm concerned about. Bring that back to my house.
Hold on. Wait. Do you really like them? You can keep them. Give them some bread or something. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. For me, I'm just like, if I married you, if we're together, if I committed to you, that's it.
Okay. What about Adam Jumper, the white guy who, his wife, right?
What was
they did porn together, like I guess girl on girl with him, right? Mm-hmm. So they decided, because I guess she was asking if she could do a scene with another guy without him. So time came, she did it. I guess he was kind of nervous about it, but he signed off on it and she did it. So then he's getting kind of like, oh, he made money off of it. But as a man, he feels like she was sort of touched. He couldn't be around her for a while. Like, it could happen again. And then they brought the dude on that it happened with, and he was like, yeah, it was just business. But me personally, I couldn't let my wife do that. Because maybe some people, are more emotionally attached than others. But I want to have some type of emotional attachment to my wife. Yeah. And I don't want my wife to be conquered by another man. I don't care how much they pay. I had one guest on, and she was like, hey, what if somebody offered her $1 million? Would should the man be like, yeah, look how much money we bringing in, go ahead and do it, and he just gotta, have sex with him a couple times for that $1 million? And she was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And I was like, well, for me, like, it means that you can be bought. So what happens when Donald Trump or any of these people that got $1 million to give away come up to you and be like, hey, I got this bread, you're gonna go.
Yeah.
And like, you want loyalty as a man. And yes, money is one thing. Like, okay, I get that. But outside of money, like, I remember watching Indecent Proposal with Demi Moore and Woody Harrelson. It's an older movie. But after that happens and a dude gave her money or whatever after they had their night, it was never the same. Because I'm looking at you like, man, I've been loving you for 30 years and you actually gave yourself to somebody else for some money?
And that's one of those things where I'm like, that's where the expectation, there are certain things for me, and I know societally we don't, for whatever reason, don't believe in doing this much. But for me, there are certain things that should be discussions before you take certain steps in a relationship.
Nobody gonna know. Oh, somebody gonna
You
offer you $1
don't
million.
know.
Should you take it or not?
So can we be all the way real? As long as you and I have been alive, as long as a lot of us have been alive, has money not had a significant impact on relationships?
Absolutely.
All right. So we know that that's the baseline.
And you know how men show dominance or how they say, I got you to other men?
Yeah, I'm going to get your girl.
They smash their girl.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of those things where it's like are you having a conversation about how you view fidelity, about how you view sex, about how you view opportunism, about how you view worst case? And so this is something that I've been contemplating, and it's something that I think is really important. And we do this on a, like, we hear it and think about it like all the time, right, from a business perspective. Mm-hmm. But something I talk to clients about, just as far as being like, before you own a business, you're a human first.
Right.
You have basic needs first.
Right.
Those needs are in a few different quadrants. Okay? And if you are going to combine your life in a way with another human being, whether that's I want to have a long-term friendship, or I want to have a long-term sexual relationship, or I want to, whatever, and you want that thing to last, right. You have to understand you can't plan for every single scenario. That means right. certain things have to be baseline. Right. So like the same way that you might do a SWOT analysis for a business, why don't you do a SWOT analysis for your relationship? And it sounds so funny, but it's like
strengths,
people talk about, and we hear it. It's so cliche to talk about. Okay, well, a marriage is like a business. We some people hear that and agree with it. Some people hear that and disagree with it. What I say is, I personally agree with it.
Right.
I haven't seen an instance in which it hasn't been the case. As somebody, having had the experience in marriage or whatever, like that, it's you can't plan for every single thing. Could you plan for the pandemic? Did you know that was going to happen? Right. So it's like things happen, and it's not going to stop things are not going to stop happening, and such. Just because you have a happy relationship now, things are not going to suddenly look perfect. Which means you need to talk about, okay, so while we talk about the SWOT analysis, what are the strengths that we have that I have with this person?
Right.
So I see in that case with the porn couple, what are the strengths you have? Okay, you enjoy sex with that person. Jealousy may not be as much of a thing with this person as, say, somebody who's not in this particular industry.
Right.
Right? Okay, so that's a strength. Now, let's talk about the threats and the weaknesses. Right. We know there's opportunities, but let's talk about them threats and weaknesses right. too.
I think one of the weaknesses would be that she has now been imprinted with this guy. She probably craved him for a while because they did actually have sex. So it's kind of like, do you want your wife feeling like that? And then in your head, you got to be like, oh, did he do this? Did he do that?
But see, that's even that is assumptive. So a lot of, and this is something else. It seems that, and I'm not a man, so I can't, you can weigh in on this by all means. But it seems that a lot of men will automatically assume an emotional connection that a woman has to a man if she is choosing to have sex with him. all women don't operate like that.
That's true.
A lot of women, the same way that a man can have sex, and I came to my senses, like a lot of women can too.
Right.
And so because of that, it, for her, he might be thinking, okay, well now it's on her mind, and she's not thinking about me no more. He might be thinking that, she might be thinking,
That's
literally
insecurity too.
that
That's
too.
insecurity.
And then also it's assumptive. For all you know, she's thinking, dang, like I did that for the money, but now I'm wondering if now I'm tainted in his eyes. Like
Is she?
That's a
Is
him
she?
thing.
But the thing is, no, because they're married. So despite how they may feel differently, that's still one feeling because they become one. And if he
that
feels,
can be idealistic though.
I got you, but if he's feeling that way, is it her job to try to bring him off of that heel? And is it his job to make her not feel like tainted? Like are they going to help each other in that regard because they're both hurt in some type of way? Possibly. I'm just
And see, for me,
speculatively
it's
speaking.
about you collectively, and in instances like that, and this is big. What was the decision that the couple collectively made? What was the agreement, the covenant, the promise? What was that was collectively made? People talk about, I was watching Law and Order, so that's why this is coming up. Ice-T and Coco. She was his hoe. Like, let's talk about it. Let's call the thing a thing. She was his hoe. And she became now his wife. It has been for a long time. They have been together, and a lot of people will look at their relationship and be like, regardless of whatever you have to say about it, guess what?
It works for them.
30 years later, right. Here they are.
But does he have to worry about her?
They had that expectation.
Over sexualizing herself to other men, or does she already know this is Ice Cube and he's enough for me?
But see, that's just it. Covenant. Before they even went that route.
Ice-T, I'm sorry.
Right. Look, Ice Cube gonna be like, what?
Right.
No. Before they even went that route, they knew what it was as far as where their boundaries were with
and
sex.
I'm sure as being a pimp, Ice-T, in that regard,
that's not emotional for him.
It's not emotional for him. He said, but he also said, if you're gonna do something with somebody else, like Adam 22 said, it's on my terms.
Yeah.
You're gonna give me $10 million for this. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a different level of intimacy. When I can say, okay, babe, this is what you want to do, or they're not this is what you want to do, but that's what they want to do to you. Let's maximize that profit because you might go anyway. But what if he was teetering and said, well, let's get some bread out of it. Let's get $10 million for it, or she just sneak and go do it, and now you mad because you see it on TV. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I would much rather be in control. Because then I can control my narrative. I can control my emotions better. I can control when I talk to my mama who saw it on TV or anybody like that.
And that's that thing too. And is it a we have a mutual agreement and support around these things, and then also are you suddenly changing? So are we agreeing to something that once the thing is done, now you feel differently about it, and you expect me to do a 180? That's another thing that happens in relationships. So let's say, maybe, and to me, this is my thought when it comes down back to the Keke Palmer thing, talking about expectations is, you knew, and Keke Palmer, before you knocked her up, you knew she was an actress. You knew part of her identity was to play a role, several roles throughout her life, and unless and until she has, she's made the decision to retire, that's what it's going to be. You knew that before.
But
you
do you
did
not
certain
have
things.
Expectations to say, even like Megan Good married a pastor, he want her to move like a pastor's wife.
Yeah.
Even though she's, she had this prior life, because everybody always talk about changes and people change and they used to be this and now they're this. So they can make adjustments if they feel like that person is who they want to make adjustments for. So if she would have said, you know what, I'll do stuff, but I have these boundaries, these expectations to say, I'm not going to do sex scenes because I'm a woman of God now and I'm, married to a pastor, and I want to reflect positively on him with my actions,
Yeah.
even in the world.
Yes.
So then she could make that decision and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do.
And even then, and this is another thing, like we make a lot of things about morality and then doctrine that are about our personal preferences. And
expand on that a little bit.
So for Megan Good, for example, and a lot of people like to have the debate around, well, she's a pastor's wife, and or was a pastor's wife, yeah. Right? Obviously, but if you read your Bible in entirety, and a lot of the times, we like to we go on Sunday and we skip some Sundays, so we got to get a lot of things out of context. There is a whole Song of Solomon where they are talking about this relationship dynamic between a man and his wife and desiring her bosom and all of these things and passion and all of this. We make certain things sinful. When did it say in the Bible and the commandments that you shouldn't have your behind out? Furthermore, if you're going to go and break that down, you have to look at First Testament and the New Testament, and you have to look at things in historical context as well. Most of us don't want to do that kind of work. We don't. We're not going to go through and read the Bible in its entirety. If you pay attention to all of Jesus' disciples, you had an adulterer, you had a murderer, you had liars, that was who Jesus hung out with. Jesus don't know who this church is now. That didn't exist. Jesus was, so it's like all of the things that we like to put, and if that's your preference, that's wonderful, right? So if you say, hey, couldn't be my wife, couldn't be my husband.
So this is what somebody said to me. Can you fault the other countries and cultures who want their women covered? Because right now we live in a first world country. You take your butt out of America somewhere and you out here with your behind out, or I'm out here with my money out.
You know that's not the society.
Somebody gonna come bust your head and take what they want. So in order to protect, this is what we need you to do. Now, if you want to go out here, you want to have these problems, move how you want to move.
Right.
But we're giving you clear instructions on what needs to happen for your survival. I think when you got America, you got other, first world countries that the world has been created where it's a really, really kind of safe space for people to kind of do what they want to do until it's not. Because you never know when it's going to switch. So, I have a daughter. I don't want her out here walking around with her behind out. You know what I'm saying?
And those are things that you said.
And that might be my preference and all that. But
I
set clear expectations
exactly.
like, hey, babe, you represent our family, your grandmama, your daddy, your mom, and Muhammad Ali had a quote that he gave to his daughter. He said, you know how, your body and what you have is like diamonds. It's covered up because it's precious. You know what I'm saying? You don't want it for everybody to see because, then somebody could just come steal it. And people don't recover from stuff like that. So my thing is, please take care of yourself and put yourself in the best positions possible. And there's no victim blaming or anything like that. But, I'm not going to go out there and wear, $20 million worth of jewelry and go around poor people, right? Because I know they're more likely to be desperate. And something is going to happen because they need, what they see. And it look like a lick. So I'm kind of putting it that way to say the expectation is to always have your guard up. The expectation is to make sure that you represent your family right. The expectation is to make sure that your kids you have somebody to look up to. The expectation is to make sure that you keep God first. And whatever that means to you, whatever religion that you have. And I think if you run on that ground, then yeah, some days you might got your butt out on camera or something like that, but it's in a controlled environment and it's it could have been scripted like the Will Smith and Chris Rock slap, for publicity. So it just kind of you really have to know what's really going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Because you really don't. You know what I mean?
And that's it. You just hit the nail on the head. And for me, that's the bottom line. Is like, know what you don't know.
Right.
Know what you don't know. And so many times in the world of social media, we like to think that because we saw a 30-second, 1 minute, 5-minute clip, now you have a glimpse into somebody's entire decade of living with somebody.
Right.
And we don't.
What about Ike and Tina? Like, everybody was like, Ike was whooping her.
So this is the thing, though. Ike whooped Tina publicly. Like, he whooped her butt in front of folks.
But I'm saying, like, but
people saw that.
But when I saw like they showed like some interviews of her like talking bad, and I listened to Judge Joe Brown. Judge Joe Brown he was like, he knew him personally. He was there. He would give money to the community. He was cool, and she was mean to everybody else. She was hitting people in the head and acting crazy. So I don't know, but the narrative says this. R. Kelly, the narrative says this. The evidence says this. Bill Cosby. You know, it's a lot of people out here that have had things said about him, Michael Jackson, whomever, and do we really know? Because what does the media do? The media will tell you anything.
And that's the thing is like, I think sometimes if we just take a step back and we say, okay, what is the media's job?
Look at Donald Trump.
And we say, what is a celebrity's job?
Right.
And we say, what is this person? Like, sometimes if we just take a step back.
The consumer's job?
Also, yep.
To spread that propaganda, to watch that propaganda, to give it views.
And form an opinion about it.
And form an opinion and talk about it. And your whole life. And your life is consumed with it. You know? And that, I just feel like, hey.
You know what we all need to do? Just take a walk in the park. Just take a walk.
We need to pray. We need to breathe. And what you said about the Bible, I have read the whole Bible. When I was young, they said I was going to be a preacher, but instead I host a podcast and I teach. So, you know, I evangelize.
Advantages of reading the whole Bible.
Right, and I evangelize, you know, some kind of way, but I know I'm fallible. And that's why I said I'm not going to jump in that, you know, in that water to be, you know, a preacher because they held to a higher. Sometimes you're held to a higher standard or held to a higher expectation because of the job you have or because of, you know, the influence that you have.
Yeah.
I look at people like Ja Morant. He walk around, you know, waving his guns. That's not illegal, but is that the image that the NBA wants to, you know, and then there's consequences because you got to follow a certain protocol. If you look at Barack Obama when he was the president, he was real straight-laced. He only could do what he could do because there was a lot of bumpers around him, you know. But now I think he done kind of took the tie off a little bit and he's saying what he want to say. If you look at people like that have influence and have power, they tend to have to walk a certain way. Otherwise, they get cast away, and now they ain't nothing anymore.
It's so funny you said that. I was at a conference last year, Inbound, and Barack Obama was there. And he mentioned it being one of the larger speaking engagements that he had done post-presidency. And it was so wonderful to, you know, get to listen to him speak anyway. But it was really good to hear him specifically talk about that. The candor that you can't necessarily have when you have a certain platform.
Right.
And, you know, to take it back to, you know, expectations generally, I think that, you know, he talked about the expectation of, okay, being in this room, the range of expectations of me would be X. And being in this room, the range of expectations of me would be Y. And being over here, the range of expectations would be this. And so then it's the balancing act of...
Right.
And I think that, you know, we talk about these celebrities, we talk about Kiki, we talk about, you know, those marriages of a poor industry or whatever the case is. I think in line with acknowledging and being truthful about your own expectations, you have to acknowledge that other people have expectations as well.
Right.
And they're not yours. They're not yours, and you may not agree with them, and you have to understand that those expectations may not be aligned at all.
Right.
But nonetheless, it's, you know, you got to know your truth and communicate your truth. And like, hey, this is my baseline expectation, and be forthcoming about that, ideally before you got your cheeks are out at Usher concerts, but but being forward about that, but then also allowing that other person to come with their expectations
Right.
or whatever that that is, and come to a consensus from there.
And if they have those expectations, is a person obligated to live up to them? Because some stuff is unrealistic. Like if you got people that are actresses and actors, they're obviously going to be in roles where sometimes they got to kiss somebody or act like they're doing something, or be a drug addict in the movie or something like that. And are you okay with it?
Mm-hmm.
And if not, you're not married to the right person. You need to move around, because they're going to be in this industry because it's paying the bills. And sometimes people put money and fame and their jobs, not even just in the industry, but like just your jobs, before they put their spouse or the other person or their kids or anything like that.
That's very common. That's a
Exactly.
very common thing.
And the expectation of the person that's at home may be different than what they're going to give. And that's when you got to make a decision. Are they living up to the expectations I want them to? And then is it expecting me to stay? Because I can do it.
And that's another thing too. I think, we like to, and I love I love Black love, I love healthy relationships. I love marriage. I love healthy marriages. And sometimes we like to do this thing where we say, okay, well, now there's a commitment. You can't ever leave. Like, we make it like modern day slavery. And
How's modern day slavery?
It is
you
like,
made a choice to go with this person.
But that's my point. That's my point about the obligation. Am I obligated? No, you're never obligated to meet anybody's expectation. You're not obligated to meet your own expectation if you don't want to.
So then why is it that people say, oh, well, you have this kid, you obligated to take care of this kid until they're 18?
So a child is different.
Okay, but a husband or a wife is not?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because legally I can't be held responsible. So certain things we want to be idealistic, right? But then it's like, okay, there's certain things like about laws. Like, I legally can't have this child and neglect it. It's unlawful. I can legally neglect, and that's you know what? Maybe if they made laws against spousal neglect, we wouldn't have. But right now, while we don't have those kinds of laws, it's like if he don't want to do what you want him to do, if she don't want to do what you want her to do,
you can go.
Right. And I think too, there's a freedom in having those types of conversations ahead of time. Not on no malicious, rolling your neck, snapping you, not that. But in having a conversation of, we're two adults, we're two consenting adults, or whatever it is. We're two people who have two minds, two hearts, two choices, two sets of choices. We can choose to be here, or we can serve each other in a way that works well and that is healthy. Or we can say, you know what, maybe this isn't the best match. We're not the best match, and we can move in love our separate ways, right? And it's not I think sometimes we get into really unhealthy situations, even staying together, right? Because it's like, people say, well, we don't stay together like grandma and grandpa no more. Just because grandma, I get so frustrated sometimes when I hear this notion, well, grandma, we don't stay together, we supposed to stay together. You know what? There was a lot of traumatized children that came out of relationships where people stayed together. There was a lot of perpetual domestic abuse that was perpetuated, a lot of sexual abuse that was perpetuated because people stayed together. I don't believe in this notion of having an unhealthy, doing it for the sake of it, for the kids. Well, okay, so now this child's in juvenile detention. This one is suicidal, and that one, he just doesn't talk to nobody.
Okay, so I saw something where it said that there was a preacher, and there was a man and a woman who were trying to get married, and then they're her parents, right? And the preacher said, now, if I'm giving her to you, her daddy and mama been taking care of her whole life. When she gets sick, when she wrecked the car, when she look ugly, when she stink, when she gets sick, when she bald-headed, when she whatever, the parents love her unconditionally, there for her. If I'm giving this person to you, right, and they're taking my name away from her and adding your name, isn't it your responsibility to take care of this person in sickness and in health, and if she doesn't meet the expectations, and if this is going on, and if that's going on, right? That's what it's supposed to be. Otherwise, why are you doing it? Stay over there, cause she's straight.
So here's my question that I like to pose. So you just said you're supposed to love her through sickness and health when she bald headed, her breath stank, and like she done got the alopecia.
Because she already got that.
And the bunions and
because she already got that with her family. And
Okay.
she's straight over here.
That
And you're
part,
saying
that
you're
part.
saying that you want to take her from
Yeah.
them who are taking care of her and love her unconditionally
Yeah.
to you
Yeah.
and take my name away from her and give her your name, and now you like, oh, well, times get hard. Let me Let me throw away.
So I personally, I agree with you. That being said, I understand not everybody. Some people get into hardships, and the first thing they want to do is throw out separation.
Exactly.
Right? And there comes a point in time, right? Because this is the other thing. There's two people in relationships, right? If I'm a person who's in a relationship with somebody who that is how they handle things, and you just said some key things. You said, okay, I'm giving her to you because she already experienced it here. You don't need to be a husband or a wife to experience that love. You don't need to do that to be there for a person.
Right.
We add the extra layers and the strings and
Right.
the things like that come
Right.
with marriage a lot of the time. No, love is a baseline.
Okay.
You know, so for me, my thought is if you can't do those things for me without me having your last name, we don't even need to go that route.
Right.
Because we've not been made perfected in love, and then I'm going to tie my life to you in that way. You don't so when I say like certain things like baseline, like what are your baseline expectations around love?
And then you got to also look at it like when we have expectations of another person, we're coming into it already broken from prior situations with expectations that we can't even let hold our own parents or our last girlfriend to or anybody else to, but we holding them to you like it's the standard when we have never gotten them before.
Never before, but you have all the answers around what
Right.
it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's a level of grace that we have to give ourselves. It's
Right.
like, understand, when I think too, especially, I'm going to just for this moment, definitely take a moment specifically to talk about our communities, like our Black communities. There's so many, we used to have a lot more examples, even if it was a messed up marriage, you could see a marriage. Mm-hmm. Now there's a lot less examples of that. There's a lot less examples of what it is for two people to be unified, right? So people who are getting married, a lot of the times it might be the first time they might be the first example of marriage,
And then,
in their family.
And then if you try to put expectations on that person and they're learning, they're on milk instead of solid food because who taught you how to be a husband or a wife, for one? Because you got to learn that from somewhere. And then unless we just learning as we go, and that's a rough ride.
And that's also where you have to be malleable, because I think too a lot of
What's
what I
malleable?
see.
I don't know what malleable means. That's a big word.
Yeah, so that means you have to be flexible.
Okay.
You have
Flexible.
to be willing. You have to be willing to bend. You have to be malleable. Specifically means it's subject to being able to be molded.
Okay.
So a lot of the time we resist that.
A lot of people are not malleable.
Exactly. But that's just
Ooh.
it. So this is the thing. You can be malleable or you can get toe up.
Yeah.
In a relationship, a long-term relationship, it's going to be one of the two.
Right.
You're not going to have a relationship that's going to have longevity and never experience any hurt.
Right.
It's either going to be you have a relationship that is distanced, therefore you never experience hurt because you never have that degree of intimacy
right.
with that person. Or you're going to have a long-term relationship and that person's going to say something you don't like, they're going to do something you don't like, and there's degrees of hurt, right?
Right.
There's you said I look fat in that dress, and there's you cheated on me, right?
Right.
There's levels. But that being said, you're going to experience those things, and how much are you willing to be bent a little bit in growing in love? And a lot of us don't want that. I want you ready-made. I want you the same way we want to. I want it microwaved already. I want it brought to me. I want you to put it in my mouth. Like, I just want to sit here and just that's what we want in our relationships. And it's like, when you draw the line of, I feel like, this is me personally, I feel like when you enter in a relationship with, well, this is what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do, when you enter into a relationship with all the list of things that you're not going to do, before you enter into the relationship with the list of things you're willing to give a person and what you want to add to them, that's where you just...
And that's what we're saying. And then, that sets their expectations and saying, this is what I'm not going to do. So don't expect it.
Yeah.
Don't expect me to give you
You're coming
this
to
or
a
don't
person
do that.
saying, I would rather you think about the things that you should not expect from me before you think about the things that are that I'm going to add to you. And then you wonder why people look at you like, I don't know about being committed to you.
Right.
Like, come on now. But that's how we... Like, you're not coming to this saying, dang, I really want to make a person happy. I want to do these types of things for them daily. I want to... You're not giving a person no degree of what they can consistently expect from you that's good, but you finna tell them what you're not finna deal with and what they can expect from you that's bad. I wish it would, because I'm finna... Okay, sis.
Right.
And if you don't got... Okay.
And
so
then,
we know what all of your no's are.
And then who can tell her something if we want something different and she don't want to do it? It's like pulling teeth. This is like a dude.
Yep.
If it's something that I don't want to do, even if you want it real, real bad and I don't want to do it, you can't make me do it.
And that's one of those things where it's like that goes back to the self-expectation. Mm-hmm. Are you honest about your own expectations of yourself? Are you a person who's never in your life had self-expectations, but you come into the table expecting everything in the world from a mate?
Right.
Like, well, I want them they need to be intelligent. They need to make 6 figures. Okay, so what's your bottom line number that you need to make? If they need to make 100,000, do you need to make 80?
No,
is it 50?
A lot of times what they say is when you ask people what they bring to the table, they say me. I'm here, and you need to have all these expectations. You need to make 6 figures, have a 6-pack, be 6'3", 220 pounds. You need to have a boat and a yacht and a 401k, and give me an allowance every month so I can go buy red bottoms or whatever. I can travel around the world. And then he say, well, what you bring to the table? She'd be like, don't be asking me what I'm bringing to the table. Look at me.
You right.
You know what I'm saying?
You're right.
That's crazy. That's like, what kind of thought process go to that where the expectation of you is so low, but the expectation, because yours came naturally. Your mom and daddy gave you what you're expected to have. That's all you bring to the table is your sexuality, your beauty, different, and maybe your smart mouth because you got some spunk or something. But the other person's supposed to have all these things, and then flip it. And the thing is, like, if a man or woman has a whole lot of money, they don't expect you to have a whole lot of money.
And so personally too, and this is where it gets to be a really fun conversation to have, right? Game night. But that's one of those where then it becomes, where is the expectation or onus more so on the woman or man in that situation if a man is not asking a woman to ever have anything? Like, a woman's coming to the table.
Asking her for something. He asking her for her femininity, for her inspiration, for her nurturingness, for the things that should come natural to a person that's a female, right?
There's like so much subjectivity there.
And then from the man's side, what is she expecting from him? If she's bringing those things to the table, for him to grow, for him to be protective, for him to provide provisions, for him to make sure that everyone is safe, that he takes care of the kids and different things of that nature when it's whatever it is that he brings to the table, and that may work for them, right? I've been in a relationship where a girl lived with me. She didn't have to pay for anything. I didn't need that from her. But what I did need is, man, I'm out here busting my tail. Everything hurt. I'm working at UPS and at, Kroger and at Taco Bell and at, I'm out here.
Be nice to me.
And I'm like, be nice to me.
Yeah, be
nice.
nice.
I don't want to come home and argue with you.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you don't have something to say that, problematic or whatever in real life. That's cool. We deal with that. But like on just a everyday basis, just having a stank attitude or, just not being soft. A soft place to land, because the world is hard.
Yeah.
And if I'm providing a type of lifestyle that you don't have to work, I have some expectations. I ain't saying you gotta cook every day. I ain't saying you gotta deep clean the house every day. But I'm saying when I come home, give me a hug or something. You know, act like, you know what I mean? Like you want me to be here. And a lot of people do the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And that comes from the men who don't want to come home, who don't want to pay bills, who don't want to work, who want to live off of their woman. And I see it, and I've seen this happen a few times with a woman. She might have a good job and all that stuff, but she got a dude just got out of prison, or that be whooping her, or that, you know, just is a deadbeat in some kind of way. And he driving a car like Baby Boy, Jody off Baby Boy, you know, trying to get money from her and all this stuff, and ain't doing nothing. You know, he's not doing anything. He's using that woman, and like he needs to get off his butt and do something. But the expectation is that it's okay for him to do that because she's allowing that type of behavior. And what I think is the demographic changes to a mother-son demographic.
It does,
to where now this is a mother figure telling him, you need to get a job, you need to get up, you need to, you know, all the things. Like, why your woman got to tell you that? You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy. Nobody should have to tell you as a man to get off your tail and go do something. Provide for your family, as long as you are physically able to. You know? And as a woman, you know, I think that a man should not have to be in a father-daughter relationship. They should help me, yes, but not a father-daughter, because you should know, hey, I'm not just going to
I'm not your ATM.
I'm not going to move a certain way. You know, I need you to represent me as my wife or my girlfriend or my boo or whatever the right way. And if you can't do that, then the thing is having the internal fortitude that when your expectations are not met, that you can move around. And I think that's what people lack, is the ability, because they're going to cry about it, they're going to complain all day.
I think it's two-way. I'll say this. In a relationship specifically, when you're talking about a committed relationship, it is, I think, one of the most unfair things to have one-way expectations. So what I mean by that is, if you have expectations of her, so you talk about, you know, a woman like, you know, okay, I don't need your money, I don't need you to contribute, like, not a penny to the household, but I need you to come home and be soft, and da-da-da. So if those are her expectations, is she also allowed to have and expect you to maintain? And are you maintaining? So if you notice that she's not, and I think this is something that a lot of times we don't do in relationships, but then it becomes if I'm upset that you're not meeting the expectation, am I first checking myself to ask myself, okay, what's expected of me, and am I meeting that expectation? Okay. So if I am upset with my mate because they have left everything all over the place, then am I meeting my expectations for if they want me to cook? Am I doing that? And but I need to start there. And if I know, it's both people that need to start there. So if I say the hope is that if I'm in a relationship and I say, well, my expectations are that I want things to be, you know, fairly kept together around the house, and those things will facilitate for me a comfortable environment to make sure I meet your expectation of being nurturing, of being soft, of being all of these things you want me to do. Want me to be, because I truly believe when people enter in relationships, they want to be these wonderful things to each other. I think they do.
Do you think that expectations have to be adjusted over time?
I think if it makes sense to adjust the expectation, yes, adjust the expectation. I think sometimes what happens is maybe it's an adjusted expectation. It doesn't make sense to adjust it. So, for example, we got done having a conversation about social media. Right. If I am the type of woman who's spending all my time on social media, and I'm seeing all these social media couples, and I see Tiffany got a yacht, Jody got a yacht, Contrail got a yacht, this person got a yacht. Well, now I want a freaking yacht. Does that make sense for that to be an expectation that I have all of a sudden within our relationship?
But you know what I hear? A lot of women say they don't like to be told no.
You're right.
And if you tell them that they can't have the same stuff Beyonce got, she gonna say, okay, well, KJ got it over here, and he gonna do it. So I'm gonna go over here and get this $1 million from him by shaking something, and I'm gonna get what I need, because then it comes back to, you can't provide for me. You can't provide the provisions.
You can't stop a woman who's gonna. So a woman, a man, a person. A person who's gonna be opportunistic is gonna be opportunistic. Period. That's a character trait.
Is there something wrong with that?
I feel like
That's like real life.
most people. So here's what this is the type of person, like anybody who knows me knows that I'm a person who's gonna try to, like, I try to see every angle. That is purposeful. Love that about me, hate that about me. Like, I'm not gonna look at it one-sided, not for myself, not for anybody. And so I think a lot of the times we look at things as right and wrong that are about preference. Like, if I prefer yellow and you prefer blue, that's your preference. Now,
She
that
prefer
only becomes
rich and you poor, you're not her preference. She gonna move around. Even if you got her for right now, she sees the next thing
but then
that's better.
it becomes when it comes down to character.
Okay.
Do you have character? So many of us have relationship preferences and no character preferences. So you want your man to make $50,000, but you don't know what kind of character you want him to have.
Right.
You just want to like you.
Nobody even said anything about a good person,
right?
A leadership qualities.
And then when we talk about character, a lot of times what we talk about is, well, I just don't want to be with a liar, and I just don't want to be with a cheater, and I don't want to like. How about I want a man that's honest. I want a man that if he don't make six figures, he has the mindset to want to either accept the help to work with me to do that. So we can collectively grow as a couple in this way, or he has the mindset or a plan to get that himself, if that's my expectation. What am I doing or what am I thinking around facilitating the expectations that this person has? For me, that's what the relationship, like the healthy relationship part comes down to. How am I facilitating the expectations or the maintenance of the expectations or desires that this person has? So if I know that I am not naturally, and again, this is where being a giving person and a gracious person and all these things that we want sometimes that we struggle to first give, this is where those things come up. If I know that, part of my expectation is that I want you to take me on a date every week, then how am I helping to facilitate that? Am I actually sharing the type of places that I like to go? If I know that part of making sure that you have the time to do that means that I do your laundry for you and I maybe put your shirts away. If I create that space, that hour space, do you now have an hour for me? Am I facilitating what I want to see? And I think in relationships, a lot of time is, well, I want, and I want you to do what I want. And to your point about, well, I don't want to be told no. Okay, sweetheart. So you don't want to be told no. How are we facilitating? Making sure you get to a yes.
All right. So, on Roasting the World, we have what's called Roasted or Toasted.
Hey, roasted or toasted?
Yeah, man. So for the
Where's
topic,
my drink?
I don't know. You just over there thirsty, man. So we almost done. So for the topic of having expectations, do you roast it or toast it? And roast it means you throw it in the fire, done talking about it, that's it.
No,
and if you toast it, that means that you think we need to have a more robust conversation about it and different things of that nature. So if you toast it, I want you to look into the camera and tell the audience why expectations are important for our culture and how it can move us forward by having those.
Absolutely. So I absolutely believe in healthy expectations. Expectations, self-expectations, expectations of how you want to be treated, how you want to be identified and move in this world, and the expectations that, understanding that everybody has their own and they're different and they're entitled to them, right? I'm absolutely for it. I think if we can talk about our expectations in healthy ways when it comes down to community empowerment, when it comes down to our homes, our households, our relationships, our marriages, and our business, I think that all those things are worth a more robust conversation. And so toast the expectations. I don't have my shot glass, but I got the crown, so here's that.
Here she goes with this crown. We want to say we appreciate you coming all the way up here from Atlanta, the A, to do the podcast. You want to do any shout outs to any business plugs or anything like that concerning that? If not, it's cool, but you have an opportunity now.
Thank you, always. Keenan's graciously giving me the floor, so I'm going to shout out Transcend. Be on the lookout, y'all, for some more empowerment, for some more business empowerment, some more good stuff coming. Got a lot in the works, a lot coming up, a lot of free webinars, a lot of master classes. So y'all stay tuned and yeah.
And as always, stay ready so you don't got to get ready. And stay tuned for another exciting episode of Roast in the World.